Welcome everyone to our webinar, Insurtech Insights. I'm Margarida Costa from Fábrica de Startups. We are very happy to have you join us today as part of Protechting program. As you may know, the Open Innovation Initiative is currently in its final week of open applications. The application deadline is this Friday. So if you haven't already, we encourage all of you to explore this opportunity and become part of the innovation revolution in insurance and health tech. Today, we have a great lineup of industry experts who will dive into the dynamic world of insurtech, innovation, and also sustainability. Our moderator, António Castro, the co-founder of Lovys, will be leading the conversation with our two special guests, Daniel Riscado, head of the Center for Transformation at Fidelidade, and João Mestre, head of sustainability at Fidelidade. Together, they will provide insights into how startups can effectively collaborate with established insurance giants such as Fidelidade to drive innovation and create sustainable impact. So without further ado, let's dive into this insightful discussion. We encourage you to ask questions, share your thoughts in the QA chat, and thank you again for being here. Let's embark on this journey. António, with you now.
First, thank you, Fábrica Startups, for the event and for the invite. Also, it's a pleasure to be here with Fidelidade, João, Daniel. Nice to see you guys. A quick word on myself. So I did my studies in economics at Nova and Lisbon. I went then to work in investment banking at JP Morgan. And in 2018, I started the project Lovys back in Paris, in France. Lovys is an MGA, so we operate in the B2C space, offering an all-in-one subscription to B2C clients, including home, car, pet, the bulk of insurance needs of a B2C client. We started in France. We've started also expanding internationally. Today we have 10 million in in-force premium, and we've raised so far over 20 million in funds. João, I'll pass the word to you.
Thank you, António, and thank you for the invitation. I'm currently the head of sustainability in Fidelidade. I've studied industrial engineering and management. Then I went to BCG to be a consultant for 4 years. And for the last 8 years, I've been in Fidelidade, having 3 different roles. First, responsible for the consulting team, then corporate strategy, and since last year, head of sustainability.
So I guess it's me now to jump in. Hello, everyone. And a quick word on myself, but most importantly on CFT. So basically my professional background was mostly in consulting, also in banking for a while, then consulting again. So it's not that interesting. And I joined Fidelidade in Center for Transformation 3 years ago. And just to explain a little bit that although we call ourselves Center for Transformation, we are mostly working on one hand innovation, which is really broad, and also on venturing. So building, if you want, corporate startups. And
right.
This is it. Mm-hmm.
So I'll start with the first question here and just giving some background. So at Lovys, as an MGA and Insurtech, we fully depend on underwriting partners. So we do operate with more than 10 underwriting partners today for different product schemas. The first question to you guys is, how can startups collaborate with established insurance companies to drive innovation in the industry?
Should I give it a go, João?
Yeah, if you want to start.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Please help me if you need, if you think it's fruitful. So that's a really good question, and I must begin by saying that it's not an easy task because, well, if you compare the insurance industry with other industries such as telcos, electronics, auto retail, the insurance industry started or began its innovation transformation cycle, much later. And so our maturity stage, if you want, when compared to other sectors, is a little bit lower. On top of that is a very traditional sector. So insurance exists since the 15th century or so. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that there are a lot of challenges to be addressed and a lot of transformation that we must follow. And so the arena to play is really diverse and vast. Why or how can we collaborate? So, like I mentioned before, there are several topics along the value chain, but I think the most important thing is really to understand the issues, the problems that we are facing. So this should be on the startup side, more a pull approach than a push approach. I think that's the number one item on the list. Then I think it's also important to clarify from the beginning, what success looks like, because I think because we think so differently, and that's a good thing, the expectations somehow might be misaligned. So it's important from the beginning to really establish between the two parts what success looks like, and then just try to take the best out of each other. On the startup side, it's like the outside-in perspective that they bring in. It's the ways of working, the boundaries or the flexibility on the boundaries are much wider, and we are typically, more constrained on that matter. And also really dedicate the right profiles into that issue, that problem that we are solving. And also, of course, clarify how important is that issue, how relevant is that issue. I think that's really the baseline for collaboration. In terms of topics, I think along the conversation we will provide a few examples, but they go from starting to engaging with the young clients to how to underwrite on a proper manner, or a more proper manner, and so on and so forth.
I'll just add that probably everything that Daniel said in a sustainable way. Obviously, this is my concern, but I'll just give one or two points. I would say that probably everybody in this call already knows that sustainability, if it's not the issue that we have today, at least is in the top 2 or 3, because at least it's important to have a world to live and to have business and to be happy, hopefully. And sustainability is not only environment, it's social, it's almost everything you can imagine. And it's for sure a top priority of any insurance company in the world, and for sure it is for Fidelidade. And I'll just give something that probably most of you already look into, but usually every year I try to see what are the top risks that the World Economic Forum identifies for the next 2 years and the next 10 years. And they put them in 4 or 5 buckets. And if you look to them, the 10 top risks for the next 2 years and the next 10 years, and as you can imagine, risks is a very important topic for an insurance company. Usually people think about technology. Well, in fact, in the next 2 years, they identify 8 out of 10 that are related with sustainability, both environment or social. And in 10 years, it's 9 out of 10. So if nothing else, if I can't say anything else, I think this is enough to show that this is important, and that any insurance startup that wants to discuss with any corporate needs to look at this.
That's the perfect cue, João, for the next question, actually. I mean, as a startup, ESG is definitely a very important topic. It's something that, for instance, investors look at nowadays. And at Lovys, for instance, we've done ESG audits to know precisely how we rank. I mean, I think we definitely have a benefit because in the end, our operation is mostly digital. So we don't rely on paper, we rely less on travel, on commuting. But in your view, how can startups that you've been working with really align to the need of pushing for ESG standards?
Well, that's a very good question, very difficult one to answer. There are a lot of ways, but if you don't remember anything that I say today, just remember that sustainability is business, okay? It's business opportunity. And it's the management also of risks. So it's also business to make sure that we are here for the next years. So in my view, obviously I can mention thousands of topics between carbon, circular economy, biodiversity, diversity, human rights. Well, I can go on in terms of topics related with sustainability, but I would say that if any startup can support us in understanding how can we take advantage of the huge business opportunity there is underlying sustainability, and just to touch in environment, because usually it's the one that we have more data, I'll just leave you with two numbers. The first one is 10% of Portuguese GDP. So for the European Union to comply with the commitments that every country in European Union has committed to be net zero in 2050, and specifically to reduce by 55% the carbon emissions by 2030, Portugal needs to invest an amount equivalent of 10% of the GDP every year until 2030. In a business such as insurance that moves with GDP, mostly, this is enough to show that it's a huge opportunity. The second number I would say is related with the climate change. Climate change events are increasingly occurring, as we can see every year. But the problem is not only profitability for the insurance company, it's also the fact that it's a social problem. And it's a social problem because people are underinsured. And it's a responsibility of every insurance to make sure that people are better insured. And in Europe, actually worldwide, more than 50% of the costs caused by climate events are not insured. Mm-hmm. So after a climate crisis, there's a social crisis coming again. So it's huge business opportunity.
Thank you, João. Daniel, you were saying a theory, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were saying that startups should follow a pull strategy, not the push strategy. When I think, I mean, that was quite insightful. When I think about Lovys, there are definitely some bottlenecks that we had since the beginning. For instance, think about know-how. I came from a finance background, not insurance background, so that was definitely something from a regulatory point of view, technical point of view, was definitely a bottleneck in the beginning, combined with the capital bottleneck that we had initially, both financial but also human. What do you see as the key challenges with this when you look at the startups that you've been working on? And how do you see that you can support the best to overcome these challenges?
You are totally right. Because you went through that process, so you really nailed it. And that goes along also with the experience we have been having with the startups we have been working with. I will provide a few examples along the way, but the first one is, and the first thing to have in mind, I'm sure everyone knows that reality exists, but they don't live it. So it's hard to understand how difficult it is. But it's the regulatory matter, and to be able to comply with all the regulatory framework, it can be really daunting for startups, as you mentioned. The whole financial services arena is highly regulated, but the insurance one is, I would say, even more, because I see ourselves as human bankers. So the banks manage credit and risk, but we manage risk on human terms. And so that there's a higher responsibility, if you will, and from then on you have all the regulation necessary to address and make sure everything goes accordingly. Another matter that also comes along comes up is the specificity of the industry, not only on regulatory terms, but even on the product, how the product is built, how the product is explained and perceived by the client. So we're not buying or selling shoes, which a client perfectly understand what he's buying. So the perceived value is also hard to understand in order to expose. Also, I think it's really important to so we are managing risk on several streams and very specific substreams. And so I would say also customer data and market data is the cornerstone to come up with a proper premium and a proper proposition for the clients, being them companies or individuals, no matter, it doesn't matter.
Definitely. I mean, we've seen actually, speaking about pricing, I mean, we saw the case of startups in the US, like Lemonade, and more recently Hippo Insurance, in which pricing was definitely an issue, right? I mean, they definitely mispriced some of the risk, and that led to huge loss ratios, and that led to equity investors to penalize them in the stock market. So in our case, I think, to be honest, the model of being an MGA really has that benefit of basically leveraging all the know-how and the experience and the historical data that an insurance company has for decades, and because and at the same time, I think it also connects back the real-time data that you can obtain by selling digitally and improve and share and improve those models back with the insurance partners for the future.
No, it's exactly that. Just to provide you also a few examples on how a corporate can, try to support and support, minimize risk, avoid a few mistakes, and hopefully accelerate a startup process. Also, coming back to regulatory framework, we are supporting a company, a startup, that it's on a portfolio of a VC that we are the largest LP to enter it's from UK, and we are supporting that startup, to get the license to operate in the European Union market, because this is such a pain. I think another topics that we may support startups is also through funding and resources, either being through, commercial contracts, or even direct, investment on the capital, or even through the programs, the open innovation programs that we are trying to, develop further and further. Also to provide a few customer trusts and the credibility. If we somehow appear, joined or alongside in the market, I think the startups, accelerate a few steps on the customer minds, because it provides trust, and also obviously through the market channels that we already kind of own or have direct access to. I think those are the main ones.
And I mean, basically, was also one of the points I wanted to bring up today, right? What are the types of collaborations that we can think of between the two startups and corporates? And you mentioned underwriting, distribution. Eventually, do we see as well something on let's say on the platform side, on the efficiency side? Do you see currently platform as a service or any integrate? Are you guys integrating as well, like startup products for specific internal processes?
Definitely, yes. So if you know the insurance sector profitability or the main ratios, let's start with the combined ratio. You will see that it's most of the times 90% plus. So we have, and a part of that is not only the loss ratio, but also on the expense side. And because we are, like I mentioned, large companies with a lot of legacy, which legacy is not necessarily an evil, it comes along with good stuff as well, but nonetheless we have a high structure of costs, and and process that went along several years, but somehow keeping the same in the essence. And so just to emphasize how important that is, we are really looking forward to improve our efficiency, not only to provide a better customer experience, but also a collaborator experience, and also very, very important to improve our expense ratio. And I think startups may play a really key role on that.
There must be as well, João, there must be as well an ESG angle here if we think about digitalizing certain processes, certain interactions.
Yep. First of all, sorry for not having the camera, but I'm having some technical issues. I don't know. It seems that it doesn't work. But getting to your question, the support that's in Fidelidade we are envisioning for the startups in terms of sustainability is mainly in the calculation of their impact. Okay, and I would say that this has two angles. The first one is to understand what is the impact that the product, the service that the startup is building, what it already has in terms of sustainability. For example, if it's improving the digitalization of a process, besides the quickness of the process that gets and the efficiency in terms of expenses and all of that, we can obviously reduce carbon, reduce water, reduce whatever. So we should calculate that benefit, and companies will increasingly look to that. And it will put euros on top of that. Because, for example, in Fidelidade, we have just calculated our carbon footprint for the whole organization. And we will commit with net zero targets. So we will need to reduce a lot. And there's two ways I can reduce. And if I don't reduce, I need to capture the carbon that is already in the air. And this has a cost. So I will reduce as much as I can. And this is the only way to get to net zero, actually. So I need really to reduce. But also on top of that, I think there are a lot of other important issues. And I would stress startups to spend some time to look at SDGs. So it's basically the 17 goals that the United Nations set. And we in Fidelidade, and during the Protechting process, we intend to go with the startups that join the process to help them understand how their product and service is impacting positively or even negatively, it can also occur, these goals, so they can have a better story, a better business case when they show to investors, to customers, because it's impossible to think that investors, customers, all stakeholders, not only shareholders, are looking at this. And there are euros on top of this. It's not only to do good for the world, that's also good, but companies are putting targets here. So they need to do things, and they will be able and willing to pay more for that. And this is part of the opportunity, and we intend to support startups on this path.
Interesting. Well, let's see if we have time for one more question here. I heard the other day Satya Nadella speaking about GPT. It's a topic we got to bring up today, of course. And one thing I really captured my attention was the way he was speaking about like how in natural language algorithms, they've been there for a while, but they've been more on an autopilot mode. And GPT is transforming that autopilot mode more into something like a co-pilot mode, in which we enhance our efficiency, our capabilities, rather than being really replaced by machine. What do you guys think about GPT at Fidelidade? Do you, or let's put it natural language as more holistically? Are you guys looking into, and can you speak about some specific use cases?
Yes, definitely. You were right by saying that we have to talk about that new paradigm, but we have to be careful on not surfing too much a hype. I mean, that's a huge game changer. It can be compared definitely to the internet or even more. We are still trying to figure that out. So we as a group have been, you know, trying to understand what this means and how we can lever, but keeping, you know, a very serious approach by using it. Just because it is so, it is such a game changer, and it can go right or it can go, you know, south. So we take it very, very seriously. Nonetheless, and focusing on you know the good things that it may bring, we are definitely, you know, so we have a department specifically dedicated to artificial intelligence and data analytics. So the competence, it was already inside the group, and they have been working a lot for, you know, several years around that. And that same team working together with, you know, external experts and external partners with our business units, we have been, you know, trying to prioritize which areas can we act upon. And to start with, let's start with something more simple, and well, it will provide a lot of benefits in terms of efficiency, but it doesn't pose a very high risk. And so we started, and we are starting with customer service on many forms, text, speech, in a few business lines that don't have, you know, a large amount of interactions. We are already putting that in place. Also, there's several other streams, such as using GPTs to, or LLMs also, to understand better what is occurring in the market in terms of competition analysis, how we could build a new offer based on other competitors, customer demands and wishes, and our internal competences. So that's another angle also, because there's it's something that we take very seriously, is to how to engage with the customers, with the market, because let's face it, we are not perceived with value on a daily basis of our customers. So how we could engage with younger customers by producing contents, interesting and engaging contents, leveraging also AI. And I think probably the group will evolve as it feels more and more confident in that technology, to go further into how to assess risks and how to take this into segmentation one, meaning you, António, to do this specific thing will get this premium, and then João will get another premium, and so on and so forth. So this is, I think we will be able to lever to that extent, and also on fraud detection, which is also a major issue, as you also may feel in Lovys, and sure you address that very well. And so also on that angle, we are trying to lever GPT to that. But these are only, you know, a few examples, but it's major. Yes.
Perfect. Daniel, João, thank you very much. I think we'll move to open the discussion for Q&A. So Margarida, shall I read out loud one of the questions and
yes, António, you can check the questions. Maybe we don't have time for all of them, so I will suggest just to choose some of them, and the other ones we will ask Daniel and João to reply, and we will send the answer to the person.
Okay, so I can grab here one question that relates more to it's a rather question to a startup. So what are the main challenges startups may face when collaborating with corporate giants like Fidelidade, and how can they overcome them? I would say that there's one first challenge that or a question that the startup needs to do, which is there a fit or not with a given large corporate, right? I mean, at Lovys, we had many successful projects with large insurance companies. We also had some that failed. Most that have failed was really because the strategy was there was a mismatch in strategy. So if you think there, in our case as a B2C MGA, one typical reason for that failure was when our partner was actually very much into a direct-to-consumer strategy, very overlapping, and therefore willing to control most of the processes. And in such a scenario, an MGA, it can be problematic for an MGA like us. That I mean, we survive really by creating unique products and internalizing most processes into our platform. So we did have some projects like that failed. So I think realizing if there's a good match or not from a strategic point of view is really, let's say, the perfect starting point. And then, of course, if you do find partners that have a good fit, as we've done, I mean, today we have over 10 partners that we have very good business with, underwriting partners that we have very good business with. Then, of course, there's an ongoing challenge. I mean, it's as Daniel was saying prior, this is an industry that is highly regulated. The expectations are very high, both from the industry standards, but also from the consumer. So you need to make sure to keep up as the partnership goes on. You need to make sure that you keep up with all the requirements and perform well from an execution point of view across the different processes, that subscribing policies, managing those policies, and of course, then handling claims in our case. There's one question here that relates more to Fidelidade. Daniel, João, if you are willing to answer, I'll share it with you. So it's besides Protechting, how can we reach Fidelidade to explore other collaboration opportunities?
I would emphasize that the Open Innovation Program, so Protechting, is a much more easier way. Nonetheless, a lot of departments such as Center for Transformation, our IT department, Center for Advanced Analytics and Artificial Intelligence, we are always open, to startups. We have very clear which are the challenges and the priorities, and I think the probability will be totally correlated with that priority. I mean, if it's a priority and if there's a good match or a perfect match or a close match at least, then things move over and take their way. But if not, we are always eager to understand, and we have a proper database, and we will revise them and from time to time, and that comes up. But I would really seize the opportunity to leverage this program, because the whole company has pretty clear which are the challenges. All the teams are set, from our side to work along and hand by hand with the startups, and so the success probability is much higher. But apart from that, a direct contact also works. João, please.
I'll just add that,
yes.
Well, related with sustainability, I think every day I am contacted by startups, and to be honest, I think the challenge is that usually they don't have a very clear story to tell us yet, but I'm always open to talk and to learn. But for sure, I would stress that it's much easier to go through a program such as Protechting, because it's very well structured, and all the key people are involved, and the process will go much smoother, and with the support that is appropriate. But to be honest, my contacts, namely in LinkedIn, are always open to receive requests, and I usually try to meet with everybody, because I'm learning, and I think everybody that has the responsibility of sustainability is learning a lot and needs to meet almost everybody.
Daniel, João, shall we recap with one last question here, which is around successful partnerships that came from the Protechting innovation cohort, if you have any to share.
Yes, of course. So top of mind, I would say Tucuvi, which is a Spanish startup that through AI assures the follow-up of a post-hospital intervention. Also, Visa AI works with us and has been working with us for a long time now. Well, these two are really the top of mind that, you know, become something present on our daily lives. But there's more that we imagine supported to go to or to have a better access to Latin America, or if they wish to Mozambique or Angola. There's you know, more that we, you know, keep in touch, but working really closely on the top of my head, these two are good examples.
And on my side, I would say that we truly want to have one or two or even a lot related with sustainability, and that's why we are also supporting directly on this topic and giving, I would say, even a crash course on sustainability for every startup that joins Protechting.
And João is a great teacher, so I would take this chance.
And the whole team, for sure.
Perfect. João, Daniel, thank you very much. Thank you as well, Fábrica de Startups, Margarida, José.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Daniel, João, António. We look forward to receive your startup applications for Protechting. So see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.